Enter a messenger. My lord, your brother John is taken in flight and brought with armed men back to Messina. Think not on him till tomorrow. I'll devise the brave punishments for him. Strike up, pipers! And thus concludes Much Ado About Nothing by Bill Shakespeare, which is exactly what week 14 was in the Tonto's Demise Fantasy Football League. Much Ado About Nothing. The standings did not change. Gags got in. Actually, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Josh leapfrogged Ed, but they still play each other. Nothing interesting happened. Possum couldn't get there. Biscuits won, which means none of those guys, they all won. All of you won. So none of you were able to snatch that bye week away from Biscuits. And yeah, it was pretty much a yawner. Snooze fest, week 14, playoff run here. Anyway, as we always do, we talk about the defending champion, Shawshank Athletics first. So he is now, the number 4 seed. He heads into the playoffs on a strong note, knocking off Disco 219.85. Careful not to peak too soon, Josh. Versus Disco's 171.15. Excuse me. Disco, you still scored 171 points, despite 13 from your quarterback. Shawshank, Herbert goes for 65. Garrett goes for 14. Lockett, 17. Juju, 22.5. Najee, 13. Derrick Henry, 23.5. Hunter Henry, 10. Josh Reynolds, plug and play in the flex there, gets you 16. Badgley, the Detroit Lions kicker, gets you about 12 points. And then your Chiefs defense, Yahoo says 18, looks like a bump of 9 up to 27 there. So that is about 93, 92 from your Josh's Buns, couple 20s in there. Way more than enough to get past Disco, who said still put up a pretty respectable score that would have beaten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You would have beaten 9 other teams this week, Disco, with your score. But unfortunately, you played one of the teams who had a high enough score to beat you. Fortunately, it did not matter because you were already out. Would have been much more painful otherwise. Said Carr, he went for 13. Chase goes for 28.5. The former Shawshank Athletic. Waddle, the former Gags to Riches, goes for 5. Judy pops off this week for 33.3, thanks to 3 touchdowns. Zeke, the former Shawshank Athletic, goes for 17. McKinnon, the former Possum Magic, I think. I was just looking at the draft board there. Pretty sure he was drafted by Possum. Goes for over 100 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns this week, 32.5 points. Fant, your tight end, goes for 0. Pickens, the former Ginzer Jag, goes for 10.5. El McPherson goes for 5, and the San Fran D looks like Yahoo says 15, bumped up about 12 to 27 for your defense there. You still lost by almost 50 points there, Disco, so you would have needed Derek Carr to get about 50, Fant to get something, Waddle you expect more from that from Waddle. But yeah, it just wasn't meant to be. Like I said, fortunately, didn't really matter what happened to you this week. You would have liked to knock off one of the playoff teams, send them limping into the playoffs, but it wasn't happening this week. Disco finishes 5-9 in 10th place. Josh, like I said, 9-5 in the 4 seed. Next up, this matchup came down to Monday night. Would from gags to riches be able to? Well, he was already in basically because Justin was beating Possum Magic. There was almost no way that Possum was going to be able to get a victory. The only way Possum would be able to get into the playoffs was to win and have Gags lose. And unfortunately, the Garbage Dopes were not quite able to get it done in a matchup that ended up not really mattering for the playoffs there. Like I said, Possum would have had to win, which he did not, to make our matchup matter. And this one actually almost didn't go the way it should have. Gags only needed about 42 points or so from his quarterback, his wide receiver, and his defense to get past the Dopes. I think you were at like 111 to my 152. And it started off about as worse as it possibly could for Gags there. He gets the victory finally, I should say, 159.45 to 152.45. So he needed about 40 points. And on the first drive of the game, Kyler Murray goes down with a torn ACL. Gets 1.75. And like I said, goes down for the game. So that leaves you with DeAndre Hopkins and New England defense tasked with getting you the other 40 points that you needed. And thanks to a DeAndre Hopkins fumble, which was returned for a touchdown, Gags was able to get the victory over the Topes this week. Said 159 to 152. Murray, though, sending you into the playoffs without your starting quarterback, going to have to either roll with Daniel Jones or rely on, you've got Mike White on your bench, though he is probably playing hurt after the punishment he took last week. Although he's got Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle, pretty good playoff matchups there. Depending on his health, you might want to consider playing Mike White. So you're in a bit of a tough spot there, Gags. But anyway, let's run down through the lineup here. So Murray went for 2. Hopkins got 13, despite losing that fumble. Keenan goes for 21. DK, 18. Miles Sanders, 31.5. Sorry, Disco, you and me, a year too early. You were a year too early on Jalen Hurts, apparently, and I was a year too early on Miles Sanders. This would have been the year to have both of those guys. 31.5 points for him. Mixon goes for 12.5. Hawkinson goes for 11.5. Gallup, 6. Bass, 10. And again, your Patriots defense, Yahoo says 24. I think we bumped you up 9 to 33. So 33 and 13 from Hopkins was 36, enough to get, 46, enough to get you with Murray's 2 there, 38, 48, enough to get that 7-point victory over the Topes, who had Cousins go for 65. Ayuk goes for 13.5. Mike Evans, huge disappointment since trading for him. Nothing but disappointment. Almost always single-digit scores since trading for him. Really disappointing. 8.5 points. McKenzie goes for 6. If I'd kept Van Jefferson in there, would have still lost by like half of a point. Tony Pollard goes for 22.2. Rashad White, 10.5. Schultz, 14.5. Jalen Warren, 4.5. Gano, 2. And Seattle defense got 5. Got throttled at home by the Carolina Panthers. Was hoping that would have gotten a little bit more from them this week. Said at home against Carolina. Gano, no field goals. So I would have liked to end the season knocking off Gags and looked pretty good at the beginning of that game. But said much like the first round of the playoffs last year, I think I played Disco, and even though he beat me, he lost a guy or two to injury. Gags, you lost Kyler Murray this week playing against me as you head into the playoffs. So again, you can't get through me without paying the troll toll. But anyway, Gags to Riches finishes 7-7. He, much like his favorite drink, 7-7. He ends up in the number 6 seed. Meanwhile, the Garbage Dopes, unable to climb out of the basement, they end 4-10 and in 12th place. So you know what that means. Guess I might as well get myself prepared mentally, physically. Just getting prepared. Ugh, so gross. I know, even though this is not the right one, this is not the cursed jersey, but I guess just gotta get myself prepared. Never thought that I would be the one ever wearing the cursed Phillip Rivers jersey, but here we are. Alright, anyway, let's just run straight down the rest of the matchups here. Biscuits was going up against Saquon. It ain't so. He needed a victory to lock in that number 2 seed, and he just barely gets it. 140.65 to 139.45. So a 1.2 point victory for Biscuits, kind of limping his way into the playoffs. I don't know if he had some bye week issues there in week 14. No Olave, no Scorderell, no Brian Robinson. Your Denver defense was playing Kansas City. Let's see, Tom Brady goes for 45. Devontae goes for 17.5. CeeDee Lamb, 8.5. Duvernay, big 0. Eckler goes for 24.5. Singletary, 5.5. Mark Andrews, only 3.5. Bellinger, 5. The Giants tight end, I guess he's back from what sounded like a quite uncomfortable injury. Was it a broken or cracked eye socket or something like that? That just sounds awful. Butker goes for 12, and your Bengals defense looks like they went for an extra 9 to get you about 20. Just enough to get past Saquon again. He got 36 from Burrow, 17 from A.J. Brown. Actually, Tyler Boyd gets hurt in this game. He doesn't. This one definitely goes the other way because he ended up with 0. Even basically one catch for any yardage would have made a difference in this matchup, but Boyd got 0. Captain Kirk goes for 9.5. Kareem Hunt, 3.5. J.K. Dobbins, over 100 yards and a touchdown against the Steelers there to help get the Ravens a victory. 21 points. Kittle goes for 7. Freiermuth, 12.5. Justin Tucker goes for about 12. And your Eagles defense, Yahoo says 13. The bump looks like it was 9. Also, up to 22. Jay, you were done already. All you were trying to do here was play a little bit of a spoiler. Said Dub C was licking his chops trying to get that number 2 seed, and he was this close. He got this close. But said Biscuits holds on. He's the number 2 seed at 10-4. Other way around, Jay, he is 4-10, and he ends the season in 11th place. All right, then we had Possum Magic versus Darkwing Jet. Again, Possum Magic needed to get a victory here and have Gags lose. I think if they had both lost, Possum had a pretty big point differential to try to make up for, and he was not able to do that. Justin didn't really have a lineup set all the way into Sunday afternoon. Plugged a couple guys in there, but still had a couple guys in his lineup who did not play. Unfortunately for Possum Magic here, fortunately for Justin, It did not matter because Darkwing Jet still clobbered you 171.8 to 149.05. So despite multiple zeros in Darkwing Jet's lineup, Goff goes for 60. Donovan Peoples-Jones goes for another 19.5 points here. Probably one of the unsung wide receiver threes in the league this year. Kind of coming out of nowhere, being productive practically all year long. DPJ. Tyreek goes for 24. Nico Collins, one of your zeros. He was out. Chubb goes for 8.5. James Conner, 23.5. Hurst, your other zero. If you had played your other tight end, Justin, which was Evan Engram. He exploded for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns this week, 42.5 points. You would have been all the way up into the 200s if you had played, if you had put in Hollywood Brown, you would have gotten about 220 points, about a 220 point week this week, Justin, if you had fixed your lineup, but you did not. Didn't matter. You got the victory. You ended Possum Magic's hopes. Mike Williams in the flex there, 23.5. Matt Gay goes for 7, and your Cardinals defense on Monday night, I believe 7 is the correct score. It was enough to get past Possum Magic, who, even though Jalen Hurts goes for another 54 points, the rest of your lineup kind of let you down. Amon-Ra, 13.5. Slayton, 6. Corey Davis gets hurt in that game, only 2.5. Damian Pierce gets hurt. In this game, I see he's got a D next to his name. He's got an ankle injury. Sprained ankle, probably going to miss a couple weeks. So even if you had made the playoffs, you would have been limping in a little bit there. Tree. You got Aaron Jones on a bye this past week. Pittman on a bye. You had to play Davis probably. You played Josh Jacobs, 19.5 points, not too bad. Dulcich, 7.5. Travis Homer you played in the flex there. Would not have made a difference if you had played Hubbard. Even though he scored 19 compared to Homer's 5.5. 13 more points would not have made a difference there. Your kicker, Marr from Cowboys, goes for about 12, and your Cowboys defense. Yahoo says 9. Looks like another bump of 9 to a defense here, up to 18. But yeah, other than Jalen Hurts, Jacobs did his part. He got 20 points there, but not enough the rest of the way down for Possum Magic. To get a victory here, if he had won, so he had to get the win, and hope the Gags lost, but nothing, unfortunately, for Possum Magic. None of the things that he needed to fall into place here in Week 14 happened, and he ends up on the season. Both of you guys actually end up 6-8. Possum in 7th place, Darkwing Jet in 8th place. All right, then we had, again, the Dub C Hooligans were trying to get a win and hope that Biscuits would lose and sneak that number 2 seed. Dub C did his part. Unfortunately, Jay was not able to do his part and get a victory over Biscuits. However, Dub C does put away Hillbillies on PCP pretty comfortably, 167.1 to 106.2. Dub C, Geno Smith goes for 42. Justin Jefferson, 36.5. Debo, 14.4. Before suffering what is probably going to be an ankle injury that keeps him out the rest of the fantasy playoffs. Josh Palmer goes for 9.5. CMC goes for 32.5. Stevenson, 3. He's got an injury too. I'm not sure what his status here for you in Week 15 is going to be. Everett, your tight end, goes for 8. Pacheco goes for 12. Prater goes for 7. And your Tennessee Titans defense, even though Yahoo says 0. I believe you did actually manage to get 3 from them. Hillbilly is not putting up much of a fight though this week. Deshaun Watson goes for 44. Devontae 10. Deontay 14. DJ 1/2 of a point on all rushing stats. Excuse me. Jeff Wilson, gets hurt. Goes for 2.5. ETN only 3.2 in a game where they scored 36 points. It's kind of surprising there. Travis Kelce 11. Cam Akers coming back from the dead 9.3. Suck up your kicker actually goes for 0, thanks to 1 PAT and 1 missed field goal. And then, kind of surprised, you played the Steelers defense. They scored 11. It looks like 11 there. Over who did Buffalo play? Against the Jets. You benched your Buffalo defense. Didn't matter. Dub C gets the win. He ends up, though, in 3rd place, right where he was, 9-5. Opposite end of the spectrum, 5-9 for Hillbillies. They end up in 9th place. Then we finally have Ed Lager versus Yinzer Jags. Yinzer Jags had the number 1 seed tied up pretty much 2 weeks ago. Didn't have to do too much, just hoping his guys stay healthy. Ed Lager really had no place to go. He was pretty much locked into either 4 or 5 seed. I think he was the 4, but he drops to 5 thanks to Shawshank jumping ahead in points there. But Ed Lager goes with a positive step into the playoffs here. 157.3 over Yinzer Jags, 122.95. So Yinzer Jags, even though he locked up the 1 seed, he's kind of been limping his way into the playoffs here. Can't feel too confident going forward. We'll see what happens, who he ends up getting in week 16. For Ed Lager, Mahomes goes for 51. Diggs goes for 7. T. Higgins, 0. Looks like he has a hamstring injury. Not sure what the severity of that is. Could be a problem for Ed going forward in the first round of the playoffs. Thielen goes for 19.5. Dalvin, 8.5. Jamal Williams, only 3.5. Njoku, 18.5. Swift, 7. Carlson, your kicker, goes for about 13. And your Baltimore Ravens defense looks like another 9-point bump for a defense to 29. More than enough to get past Yinzer Jags, though, this week, who has Josh Allen only go for 38. Not too much here the rest of the way down. Amari Cooper, 6. He's got a Q next to his name now. I don't know if it's a short week for them. What's going on? Godwin gets 10.5. Gabe Davis, 6. Saquon, only 7. Mostert, 5.5. I don't even know this guy's first name. I'm not even going to try. Conquo from the Tennessee Titans defense actually goes for 6 on a touchdown. 18.5 points from him. He must have had something in there. Did he have maybe he had a 2-point conversion because he had 6 for 6 for only 45 and a touchdown. That doesn't come up to 18, so he must have had a 2-point conversion in there. Jamison Williams, not Jamal Williams, from Tennessee, only makes 1 catch, but it is a touchdown. He gets you 11 points. Folk gets you 11, and your Miami defense gets you, Yahoo says 7, looks like about 10 was the actual score there. So, yeah, I don't know if Yinzer Jags had some bye week issues. No Watson, no David Montgomery. Kenneth Walker was out with an injury. He probably will be back by the time you're going to need him in week. Still getting used to this change here. Week 15. Yeah, I said it wrong again. Week 16. But yeah. So Ed Lager, really no change in the standings here. You get the victory. You end up 9-5. Yinzer Jags ends up 10-4 in first place, while Ed Lager drops from the 4 seed to the 5 seed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, what do we got in Week 15? Ed Logger versus Shawshank. Dub C versus Gags. Like I said, Gags lost his starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. He's got Mike White in there as of right now. Dub C, he's got Geno Smith against the San Francisco defense on Thursday night. Lamar Jackson, your other quarterback, is hurt. Don't think you have anybody else, and you only have, I believe you said on the lineup, you only have one transaction left. You lost Debo. You got Lazard in there instead. So this matchup won't be decided until Monday night. Well, maybe. I mean, that is the only player, Lazard, on Monday night. It depends if Gags has a big lead. Who knows what's going to happen there. But Dub C right where he should be, really, because you basically have two top 5. Some would probably argue top 3 picks on your team, thanks to Josh, with Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey. Both of those guys productive right now when you want them to be. Jefferson's got the Colts. McCaffrey's got Seattle. No Debo. Backup quarterback play. I fully expect CMC to go off. Justin Jefferson very much could. You got Stevenson in your lineup still. He had an ankle injury, went out with on Monday night there. You have to keep an eye on that. See what you can do there. You got Latavius Murray and Jordan Mason. He plays Thursday. If I am you, Kevin, I'm probably putting Pacheco in a running back spot and moving Stevenson to the flex there, just in case, to see what happens. Because really, if Stevenson ends up not playing, your only other choices are Murray or Mason. We're going to kind of count out Mason already. So I guess it doesn't matter. You can keep Stevenson in the running back spot unless you decide to use your final transaction on something here. You're going to be hoping Stevenson plays. If he doesn't, you're going to have to roll with Latavius Murray, which is certainly not ideal. You got Cleveland defense against Baltimore. Your other 2 defenses, Tennessee and Jacksonville, versus the Chargers and the Cowboys. So you're taking your best play there. For Gags, he's actually got Mike White in the lineup right now against Detroit. Depending on how healthy he is, that could be a good spot. That could easily be a game that turns into a shootout. Hopkins against Denver, don't really like that. Metcalf against Seattle, don't really like that. Mixon versus Tampa Bay. The running back Knight, also in the flex there for Gags against Detroit. He's got Carolina defense in. I would still put in. You got to play the New England Patriots defense. Even though they are at Las Vegas. You're gonna play Carolina at home versus Pittsburgh. If Kenny Pickett is out, if Trubisky or Mason Rudolph plays, that's a real tough one. Gags there. New England Patriots said even though they're going to be in Las Vegas, I believe they're staying. They said on last night, since they were playing in LA last night, they're just going to stay there on the West Coast and play Vegas next week. So even though it's in Vegas, you saw they did pretty well against the Cardinals. Sorry, it wasn't LA, it was Arizona. The Cardinals last night. So I was getting Sunday night and Monday night confused here. But either way, quarterback play really going to be up in the air in this matchup. trying to decide who I am going to pick. I mean, you got Metcalf. Dub C's got Gino throwing to Gags as Metcalf. If it wasn't for Kyler Murray going down, but I'm Jefferson and CMC are the big ones here for Dub C. If they show up, I think he wins this matchup. Gags solid up and down. It's really going to come down to quarterback play, I think. Geno Smith should be able to do at least a little bit of something. Gags is hoping it's going to be that way too because he's got Metcalf. Hate those Thursday night games. This is a really tough one. But I'm going to pick Dub C to win this matchup. Gags versus, I think CMC and Jefferson end up being too much to overcome for Gags there. Then we got, what's the other matchup? Shawshank versus Ed Lager. Take a quick look here. Projections, real high projections. Ed Lager projected at 181, with Shawshank projected at 171. Mahomes at Houston. Houston put up a fight last week. They could put up a bit of a fight again this week. At Houston, indoor game. I believe that should be pretty good. Herbert versus Tennessee at home, also an indoor game. That should be pretty good. This should be an excellent quarterback matchup. Then we got Diggs, Higgs, and Thielen. It says if T. Higgins isn't healthy, let's see, you've got maybe DJ Chark, possibly, going in there against the Jets defense. I don't know if you got this Carter guy from the Chargers. I don't think you want to start him. Mac Hollins, tough one. This one's probably going to come down to if whatever Higgins does. Josh has Garrett, Scary Terry, and Juju, kind of like that. Taylor and Henry, good matchups for them. Komet, Najee could be okay. Chiefs defense at Houston, that could be pretty good. You got the Jets defense and the Chargers defense. Jets defense has been overachieving, definitely, but I'm not sure I would use them this week. So Detroit has kind of been surging. You got Chiefs defense, you got to use them at Houston. Kind of a no-brainer there. Ed's got Baltimore's defense against Cleveland. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Could be a liability for you. So you got Swift and Jamal Williams going up against. I said that Jets defense has been playing pretty well. If the Detroit is able to have success against the Jets defense there, then I think that could maybe swing this matchup in Ed Lager's favor. But just from having based matchup wise, other than Patrick Mahomes, you need Dalvin Cook to really go off. Otherwise, I think Josh wins this matchup. Herbert, Wilson, good matchups, I think, up and down. Is what I think is going to end up being Josh winning this matchup. Gags and Ed, I think both are going to go down this week, unfortunately. And yes, I'm picking Josh and Dub C. Nothing to do with East Coast, West Coast. Don't care about that. We're going with the matchups. And we got going with Josh and Dub C. If that ends up being a true the outcome, that would mean that Detling would get Josh and Jim would get Dub C. So that would be two interesting matchups there. Basically, who am I rooting for, though? I'm rooting for Ed, and I'm rooting for Jim. Don't want Gags to get another one. Don't want Detling to get another one. And sorry, Josh, but I don't want you to win the back-to-back pool here. So, rooting for Dub C. If Ed goes out, rooting for Dub C or Jim. Those are the two. We'll see. Basically, three guys I'm rooting for, three guys I'm rooting against. So we're rooting for Ed, Jim, or Kevin, and we're rooting against Detling, Josh, and Gags. Sorry, guys, just the way it is. All right. Excuse me. I think that is it. We come to the conclusion of, finally, the longest season ever in Tonto's Demise. Actually, just kidding. I really, genuinely, for the most part, 90% probably, gave up caring. Here we are in the middle of December. 2 months ago, excuse me, right around, not used to talking this much in one sitting here. So Columbus Day, literally, I had already given up. So it's been about 2 months. I have had the greatest nights, 2 months of good night sleeps ever in fantasy football season. Really, just, yeah, nothing mattered. Whatever happened, no stress. Anyway, you guys don't care. That's it. We will see what happens in the playoffs. Tonto Bowl 20. Will Josh repeat and take down the $400 or $500 pot that we've currently got? Will Detling get Tonto ring number 4? Will Gags, I think he's got 3 already. Will he get ring number 4? Let's take a quick look here. Gags 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Detling and Gags both looking for ring number 4. Josh looking for ring number 2. So I keep bouncing around here on Yahoo, sorry. Playoffs. Josh looking for ring number 2. Ed looking for number 1. Dub C looking for number 3. Gags looking for number 4. And Biscuits looking for number 2. So I guess by default here, really, Ed is the guy I'm rooting for, even though I picked you to lose this week against Shawshank. Looking for somebody to get that first one. All right. That's it. And into the playoffs we go. Thanks for listening, watching, or excuse me, whatever it is you do. Kevin, your dog just took a piss right over there. You might want to clean that up. And so hopefully everybody, all 4 teams, meet or exceed expectations. Nobody's players get hurt, even the guys who are on bye. And we come back here next week to discuss who is eliminated from the force of habit there. The knockout pool, not the knockout pool, the Tonto's Demise playoffs. Should be actually 2 very good matchups here in the first round of the playoffs here. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you back next week. Good luck, and good night, and good luck. Bye-bye.